Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Constance Teo. I'm your host for this evening's presentation by Michael Plascow. And this is from the Malaysian Nature Society Selangor Branch Photo Group. And this is Malaysian Nature Society is the oldest NGO in Malaysia. And just a bit of a background, Malaysian Nature Society is a pioneer in conservation in Malaysia for the last 8 decades. And that means it's 80 years. In fact, this year will be the 81st year. Yeah. And Malaysian Nature Society is making the difference in habitat conservation and environmental education. So this evening, we are very privileged and honored to have Michael Plascow with us, who will be presenting Antarctica, Journey to the Bottom of the World. An exciting journey, I believe. So stay with us, stay tuned. And Michael has been a member of Malaysian Nature Society for many years now. He's a man of many talents. You would soon see. His passion is photography, of course. Yep. And a passionate environmentalist, a wildlife photographer. And he has been instrumental in helping disabled children in Malaysia, and as well as the photographing, giving a hand in the Malaysian Paralympic Team. And with that, he has 50 years of experience in photography, design photography with his team of photographers. Yes. So without further ado, I'll hand this over to Mike. Welcome, Mike, to the show. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Constance. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is Mike Plascow. I'm going to take you on a journey, not to the bottom of Malaysia, JB, but to the bottom of the world, the bottom of the earth, Antarctica. I've been to 49 different countries around the world, and not as an Indiana Jones, right, with a camera round my neck, but as a passionate photographer, as an environmentalist, and also a person who appreciates beautiful landscapes, endangered species, and wildlife in general. So first of all, I'd like to thank MNS for inviting me. And as you can see, I don't know if it's close enough, I'm proudly wearing an MNS t-shirt, and I'm very glad to be part of MNS. So without further ado, let me take you on this journey, which is a very long journey, and at the end of it, you can decide whether it was really worth it. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to split this into 3 parts. The first part is that many of you don't really know me, except that I go on photograph outings with you. But you don't know my background, what I've been up to, and don't really know me as a person. So I'll share with you very briefly. Then I'm going to share with you about Antarctica, the biggest wilderness on Earth. It's not a land just filled full of penguins. There are many things about it, such as the difference in temperature between the North and South Pole. So I'll share all that with you, and whether there's access to the South Pole. So I think you'll find it very interesting, with facts, and also about 100 photos or more than that I took for you to enjoy. So if you're ready, right, and you're feeling comfortable, let's start. These 2 penguins are waiting for you in Antarctica, right? So this is not my photo, I just happen to like it. For this little girl with a penguin, let your smile change the world, but don't let the world change your smile. So I'm married to a Malaysian. I'm blessed with 4 children and 6 grandchildren. I've been 27 years here. I'm from the UK and London. I've been very passionate about the environment since I was young. I remember when I was 10 years old, there was the London Aldermaston March, right, in London, with 60,000 people that marched from a small town west of London, where there was a research institute for the bomb, to ban the bomb. So my parents held me down because I wanted to leave the house, get a placard and go marching. So, you know, that was in the 1960s. So in the 1970s, I was involved in pollution, waste disposal, banning pesticides, green energy, not coal energy. And in the middle of England, we had something called the Black Country, where all the factories had large chimneys and they were emitting black smoke, and you couldn't see the sky. All you could see was a black sky, not a blue sky. So anything going, I was there marching with a placard. I'm very passionate about helping disabled children, and particularly autistic children, and I've been doing that for many, many years. I've been photographing for 46 years, and you can ask, what the heck have I been photographing? I started, when I was about 10. My father had an Agfa Select camera, 35mm camera, which was made in Belgium, and I loved the smell of the leather and all the controls. So I kept pinching it and wouldn't give it back. And so he got fed up, so he gave it to me when I was 13, right, as a present. And I don't know where it is today, but I wish I knew. But since then, I've really loved photography. And then for work, my photography for many years, from being a supermarket director of a major group in the UK to working in the environment, is designing products, doing prototypes, and selling them to major retailers or making them for major retailers, people like Marks and Spencer in the UK or Tesco UK or Kmart in Australia. And we would do lifestyle scenes for packaging. So that's the sort of thing I did for photography for many years. Then I've traveled to 49 different countries, as I shared before. So a couple of the projects that I've done, which are some of the major projects I've done. The first one is creating environmental awareness in the late 1980s in the UK with some of the biggest celebrities in the world. And then in Malaysia, I created more awareness of the big problem amongst children who had autism, with misunderstanding about autism in this country, by creating with some friends the first autistic children's choir in the world, which is in the Book of Records. So what happened was that Bryn Jones was the chairman of Greenpeace UK for many years. He was also worked for the Daily Mail as an environmental journalist. And we did many things together, such as inventing these little animals, right, for children, and planting trees, and money given from my company to from every product that we sold to help plant trees and create playgrounds for children in the UK, particularly disabled. So one day he left Land Bank, which was his idea to plant trees in the UK, and Greenpeace, and he said, "Come to my home, I've got a surprise." So now, don't say Mike Plascow never shares anything with you, right? And never teaches you anything, because I'm going to teach you an English schoolboy word with the expressions. So the word is gobsmacked, and you can see the expressions. So what does gobsmacked mean? When I was 8 or 9 years old, it meant something extraordinary. You saw something that was unbelievable, or you saw something that was an extra wow. So that was gobsmacked. Every schoolboy in the English language knows it. Why was I gobsmacked? Because Bryn invited me to his house, and there sitting round a coffee table were these people, right? So Paul McCartney is the biggest megastar in pop history, right? With the Beatles and then with Wings. So he was sitting next to me. So can you imagine in a pop concert to try and get his autograph? But there I am sitting next to Paul saying, "Can you pass me the biscuits, Paul, and the sugar?" And Cliff Richard as well was next to me. And then Dustin Hoffman, who was a megastar with films like Midnight Cowboy. Then Lenny Henry and Dawn French, who were comedians. And then Bob Geldof, who created the biggest song, Do They Know It's Christmas, to raise millions for Ethiopia for starving children. Then also there was Chrissy Hind, of a USA singer, right, from a group called the Pretenders. Sir Clement Freud, a writer, MP and chef, and the grandson of Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychoanalysis. And next to him, but because I like her so much and she passed away, I haven't put a photograph, Anita Roddick, owner, the founder of The Body Shop. So I'm sitting next to these people, mega stars, and having a drink with them, whereas normally I couldn't get near them, even in a pop concert, to sign an autograph. And they turned around and said to me, "Quit your job, work with us." So there I am, big supermarket director, you know, with company car, my own driver and everything like that, you know, in my 30s, and they're asking me to quit my job. So in 10 minutes, I decided I'd do it. So this is what we did. Margaret Thatcher, the UK Prime Minister at the time, was talking about the environment, and she was talking about things like the ozone layer. And Margaret Thatcher is based in London. In Newcastle, north of England, they're saying, what the heck is the ozone layer? Why should we even do things like change our cars to catalytic converters? So Kevin Godley, who was a local pop singer, he started an environmental pressure group in the 1980s. He made a video clip on a shoestring budget, which is the face of the earth with his girlfriend, Dawn French, talking about the earth and what we should do about the earth. So the words are by Dawn French and the video clip is on YouTube. So famous celebrities, they joined the movement by invitation. So why was it called the Ark? It was called the Ark because if you remember in the Bible, Noah left the Ark and he left the Ark to face a new world. So the reason it was called the Ark is because there were environmental groups around like Greenpeace and like Friends of the Earth. Really, they didn't connect with the average person in the street, and we wanted to. So Bryn asked me to join the Ark, and I did after 10 minutes. And what we decided to do is we decided to have a project that would appeal to the average person in the street, that they would understand. So one of the things that was really in the newspapers all the time, right, and people were talking about, were fish were dying in streams in the UK and in rivers. Why? Pollution. So one of the biggest pollutions was phosphate. So you need phosphates in your clothes to make them white at the time. And the phosphates, you know, were in the soap powders and in the various fabric conditioners for your clothes, and came out the back of the washing machines through the pipes into the streams, polluting the streams and the fish. So the first project we decided to do was create environmentally friendly household products that people would understand. So we created the first range of environmentally friendly household products in the market that were also biodegradable, sold them to Buckingham Palace. You can see, if you look hard enough, Prince Charles's signature there. And Paul and Linda McCartney backed it. On every product, there was a signature from both of them. And then we had mega stars like Dustin Hoffman. This was actually on the front page of the Daily Mail. I mean, who would give, how much do you pay for the front page of an English newspaper with its circulation? So that was just wonderful. Then we had people like Sir Cliff Richard. This was a Tesco advertisement who was giving away bottles, Lenny Henry, and the directors of the Ark, which included Linda and Paul McCartney, invite people to a launch. All right, so that was the first project. That was in the UK. And that helped create a lot of environmental awareness. This project is in Malaysia. This was called Kids Care. Why was it called Kids Care? Because at the time I found out that the United Nations said 1 in 100 children born today are autistic. And in researching autism in Malaysia and going to hospitals and asking parents about autism, people were too scared to say that their child was autistic, or that the records in the hospitals were very, very flimsy. And there are various different types of autism which affect autistic children in different ways. But even if they're disabled, these children are still very lovable. So the purpose of Kids Care was to create more awareness in Malaysia. So this happens to be in the Star, but I had newspaper stories in Sinchu, all the newspapers anyway. So what we did was we decided the easiest way to create awareness was to do it through singing. So we created a song, and we created the first autistic children's choir in the world, and we interviewed hundreds and hundreds of children. I had 3 partners, and this happened to be in IKEA, and we found 25 children that could sing like angels. So we had this concert at Day One Philharmonic, the first autistic choir in the world, and according to the Day One Philharmonic, everybody got up and they were singing, and it was the most successful children's concert they ever had. And the purpose of it at the end was that we created awareness in Malaysia for this problem, autism, and also awareness for other children's issues like dyslexia, and more awareness for Down syndrome and other things, to make the government realize they're not spending enough helping these children and their parents. I was also Santa Claus in Bangsa village for 2 years. The real deal, my wife thought I was mad. I went to the UK and I got a purpose-built Santa Claus suit made, but I forgot. Malaysia's not like Lapland, it's very hot. So the suit was too hot, and I got a wig made at a hairdresser in Paddington in London, and gloves and boots all made for me. So the idea in Bangsa village for 2 years was that we would raise money for poor children. And one day I can write a book, because what do you say when children sit on your lap for a photograph and you're in the middle of a shopping mall and they say, Santa, where's Rudolph? And you turn around and say, oh, he's in quarantine at Subang. Then they say, oh, Mummy, can we go and meet Rudolph? So how do you get out of that? So I've got lots of stories like that. I love photography. I love sport. I've done golf, the Asian Games. I do video work. I just love it. So when you're going on a photographic trip and you're going to Antarctica, do you plan the trip or you don't plan it? Do you turn up and hope you get the best photographs? Or do you sit down and think about what you're going to photograph? Do you have preconceived ideas in your mind? And what are the photographic opportunities available? This is just some of the equipment I took. Happens to be a body of a 1DX Mark II. I also took a 5D Mark IV and other things. So I plan. I sit down beforehand and I think, if I'm going to spend all that money going to the other end of the world and I'm going to photograph, what do I need to take with me? What's the climate like? What wild animals am I going to see? You know, what is it that I expect to see? So I spend a long time doing it. I mean, these are just 2 maps that I have. One map is really a photograph of Antarctica, you know, so I can see where I'm going. The other map is I'm looking up on the internet, what's there? So I plan everything and I preconceive shots before I go. You see, this is just a plan, you know, of animals throughout the year, what's going to be there. So now we're going to start our journey to the bottom of the world. And I'm going to tell you a lot of facts, right, to, first of all, to dissuade any preconceived ideas you have about Antarctica. So who sighted Antarctica? Captain James Cook in the 1770, an English captain. He was credited as the first person to see Antarctica from a distance when he circumnavigated the whole world exploring. Then you look at this famous phrase from Ernest Shackleton in the 1940, when he made the trip in 1914 to 1916. You know, a long time ago. To advertise people, he said, men wanted for a hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success. Who would want to go on a, you know, with words like that? But he got people to go. And then he became very famous because his ship sank. So he was on an ice float for a long time until they found him. So he made 4 expeditions to Antarctica, and he's recognized really for his remarkable perseverance and survival. So how big is Antarctica? So, you know, a lot of people ask that. Well, you can actually, you know, if you take the USA and Mexico, you can put it inside Antarctica. It's so big. Then the land area is 14.2 million square kilometers. Then if you look at the distance above sea level, I mean, you can see that as well. So if you can't relate to, move this right. If you can't relate to the USA and you can't relate to Mexico, you can definitely relate to Australia. You can fit Australia twice inside it. Oops. So people ask, is it actually cold in Antarctica? Well, the South Pole is minus 28 centigrade in summer. In winter, it's minus 64 centigrade. So the South Pole is here, all right? So in 1986, the coldest recorded was minus 89.6 centigrade. Can you imagine that? So the question is, which is colder, North Pole or South Pole? The South Pole is much colder. The North Pole is -22 in the summer and -29 in winter. So outside of Antarctica, which is this area, which is the area that we went around, because you look at Antarctica, it's so damn big. So when you've got limited time and you're not sure of the weather and you're not sure also about the ice, really, you can only do one part if you're going to do it meaningful. So the Weddell Sea here, as an example, in summer is -1 to -10, can go down to -15. The air is very dry and it's frozen over in many places. So this is the South Pole. It's not my shot, it's somebody else's. I was just amazed. It's -37 centigrade. So this building here is actually the US research station. So it was built by the US Navy in 1956, and it's prefabricated modules. The exterior is 4 foot thick, and the aluminium inner surface, it's got aluminium inner surfaces and plywood sandwiching fiberglass. So you can imagine it's like this for 6 months of the year. You can't see anything. So can you get to the South Pole? Because everybody asks that. Yes, you can, by a Russian Ilyushin plane, which is this plane as an example. But there's no wildlife at the South Pole. The snow is very deep. There's lots of ice. It's dry, cold, and windy. So can you fly to the South Pole? Yes, you can. Specialist operators out of Chile, they spend do tailor-made trips for you, but you spend only 3 to 4 hours actually at the South Pole because it's too cold and very expensive. Because don't forget, one of the costs is they've got to de-ice the planes. Can you drive to the South Pole? Yes, here's the South Pole here, but very few have done it. It's too hard a trip and too expensive. You need special trucks like this Hilux trucks down at the bottom here that have got special tires and special fuel that will not freeze. This is a generator at the back. So they're modified Hilux trucks. So the cost, if you've got a lot of money, is $70,000 US per person, with Chilean companies organizing it, or 292,460 ringgit, approximately. 4 to 5 days to get there, 3 overnight camps, 1,235 kilometers from here to here, and it's situated on a polar plateau, 2,800 meters high. So you fly from Punta Serenas, which is in the, you can see here, it's in the southern, well, it's in Chile. It's right about the middle of Chile. So who owns Antarctica? No one. There's a treaty signed by 12 countries. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've missed out one. But it's Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Chile, France, Japan, Norway, South Africa, Russia, New Zealand, USA. I've missed out UK. UK is there. So there's access by boat, but planes are discouraged from going there due to difficult navigation because of magnetic fields that would interfere with the planes. So here are some facts before I actually show you photographs. In Antarctica, there's 6 months summer, 6 months winter. That means it's pitch black almost. There is no time zone. Scientists use the time zone that their countries have according to their research station. The oldest ice in Antarctica is 800,000 years old. Antarctica is a desert. It rarely rains or snows. It's the windiest continent on Earth. If the ice would all melt in Antarctica, the sea level would rise 70 meters or 230 feet. Over 70% of the world's fresh water is locked in Antarctica in ice sheets. 90% of the Earth's ice is there. Few planes fly over Antarctica. Why? Because the weather is unpredictable, de-icing is very expensive, visibility is sometimes not good, very poor, there's a lack of infrastructure, and navigation problems. Boats navigate by compass and check GPS every hour. They check for icebergs visually and by radar. Sonar is also used. So from November to March is the expedition season. The rest of the year it's frozen over. And yes, polar bears do not live in Antarctica. as some people think. They live north in the Arctic. So how do you get there? There are many different ways. You can go east, you can go to Sydney, and from Sydney, you can go across to Antarctica, or you can go the way that me and my wife went. Why we go this way? Because I like my comfort. So I like Emirates, because my wife can sit on the plane and within 5 minutes, she's zonked out asleep. Me, I've got to watch every film going, and I've got to pace up and down until I get the energy to fall asleep. So that's why I like Emirates. So we flew to Dubai, which is up here, which is 6 hours, 45 minutes. From Dubai, there is only one way to get to Antarctica. It's the same from Sydney. You have to fly to Argentina, to Buenos Aires, the capital. So that is 22 hours, 20 minutes on a plane. That is a long, long time. So we actually broke the trip up at Buenos Aires because we were just, even on the plane, got jet lag, tired out. And we spent a couple of days in Buenos Aires, and then we flew to Ushuaia. Ushuaia is the most southern town in the whole world, and the only way to get to Antarctica. So even if you fly to Sydney, you still got to fly to Buenos Aires, and you've got to fly to Ushuaia. And Ushuaia is a domestic airport, non-international. So this is all domestic. So the total time is and then you've got to, and then from Ushuaia down to Antarctica, you cross the Drake's Passage, which is 48 hours by boat. So if you think about it, it's 32 hours, 15 minutes flying time. It's not hop and skip, like from here to JB, plus 48 hours by boat. It's 80 hours, 15 minutes. And that doesn't include transit time. So you've got to ask yourself, was it worth it? So this is the Drake's Passage. You cross that from Ushuaia to the top of Antarctica. So the question was it really worth it to travel so far? Oops, go back. So Ushuaia's got 57,000 population. It's the most southern city in the world. It's the bottom of Argentina, and it's a departure point for the Drake's Passage to Antarctica. Very small airport, domestic. There's a picture there showing from Buenos Aires to Ushuaia. There's only 3 ways to get to Ushuaia. 49 hours from Buenos Aires, changing coaches, but very modern coaches, very good. 5 hours, 30 minutes from Buenos Aires by very old trains, got changed trains, or 3 hours, 30 minutes from Buenos Aires by flight. So we took the flight. But as you can see, it's not a big airport. I just loved this. It was on the wall, right, that I saw in the town. Off we go to the world's end, all the penguins. This is Ushuaia Harbour. This is a reflection in the water showing Ushuaia city. You can see the whole reflection there of all the buildings and everything. This is the port. You can see all the boats, going to possibly to Antarctica, even a sailing boat. So there's a whole variety of boats, from sailing boats, which you can go to all sorts of vessels, depending on your choice. It's also the port. There used to be in the 1940s, Douglas DC airplanes, that used to fly the whole area. I love this. This is a Rotary sign. Rotary was started at the beginning of the 20th century, the early 1900s in Canada. And then they went down to Ushuaia, and they made this sign right in the middle of Ushuaia, which is made from wood. And the part I like is "May peace prevail on earth." And Argentina's main language is Spanish, and it says English at the bottom. This is just a shot, last minute buys in Ushuaia with the penguin with the raincoat and the teddy bear with a t-shirt. Right, okay, so how do you go to Antarctica? Many different ways, but the way that I chose was, Linda and I chose, was a research ship. So what's a research ship? It's a ship with naturalists and geologists on board. And they will go and they will research the area for a certain period of time. And the rest of the time, they will take a certain number of guests on the ship to pay for the boat. It's as simple as that. So this ship was built in 1970 in the USA, and it's registered, and it has the flag of Comoros, which is a country in Africa. It's in East Africa. So on this ship, they're naturalists and geologists. So every day what they did is they, after a quick breakfast, very early in the morning, they told us what we were going to see, what the rock formations were like, the wildlife we were going to see. So it made the trip a bit more meaningful than going there snap happy and trying to see as much as you can, you know, by just snapping your camera. That's not my photo, because I was told, together with my wife, to stay in our bunks and get strapped in. Drake's Passage has got 40-foot waves, and the waters hold about 800 shipwrecks over the years, with 20,000 sailors who've lost their lives. So you can see from South America, you have to cross Drake's Passage to get to Antarctica. There is no other way. So, you know, we were told, you know, don't go out, it's 48 hours, unless you want a meal, come out for a meal, stay in your beds. It's going to be very, very choppy. Strap yourself in. So that's what we did. So Antarctica, here we come. So we're coming over here down Drake's Passage towards Antarctica. So it's a ship's wheel there. You can see before cockpit of the ship. And then I took, so you know, this is all my stickers, safeguard, security guard by day, leprechaun by night, and I love stickers. This is my Pelican hard case where I put my, I mean, you can drop this from a height. I put my camera bodies in there. Then I had this think tank roller bag, and then I had my Gitso Traveler monopod, and then my tripod. Then I had, for those of you who are photographers, I had 2 camera bodies, my Canon 1DX2 and my 5D Mark IV. And I had 4 lenses, and then batteries, memory cards, and extension cord for charging. So, I mean, Antarctica is so big, as I explained, you would need a month on a boat to even penetrate it. And the weather can be very, very unpredictable. So we did 12 days, plus 2 days coming across Drake's Passage and 2 days coming back. So it's 14 days in total. And we went this way, right, round the top of Antarctica. And then I made a list of all the various places we were going to go. So every day, as I said, we had wildlife checklists from a naturalist, rock formations from a geologist, straight after breakfast, and we went out on Zodiac boats. So this is one of the entrances to Antarctica. So can you imagine, you know, you're going through choppy seas, 40-foot waves, and then suddenly you're here, totally calm, no sound, nothing at all, just beauty in front of you as God created. Absolutely beautiful, just total serenity after you've crossed one of the most dangerous seas in the world, Drake's Passage. You can see how calm the sea is. You can see the various small ice floes there as well. Then you can see no pollution, how clear the water is, and the background of the ice and the mountains. Just a landscape with some reflection. Whoops, let's go back. So landscape with some reflections. Totally quiet, no sounds. Not even, you couldn't even hear a breath of air. It's another landscape with the sun shining on the snow. This is the evening from the boat. Look at the sunset. Seas of frozen ice. So why are these blue? It's because the sun is shining on the water, reflecting through the ice. And here they're white, where it's not so sunny, so the sun's not reflecting. So you need a very strong ship, you know, to go through this ice. And here you can see again, the sun reflecting through the iceberg, turning it blue, shining on the water, reflecting through the iceberg. And this is an evening view from the ship, sunset. So the geology of Antarctica is limestone, granite, basalt rock as examples, plus sheets of ice. But there's certain rules in Antarctica that I'll come to later. It is totally illegal to take any rocks home as a souvenir, because they say that everything is in Antarctica is for scientific purposes. This is the end of the day. Look at the sunset. This is just another beautiful landscape. This is from admiring beauty from the front of the ship. So this is -12 in the morning. The sun is starting to come out. So the weather's very unpredictable. Some days can be very sunny, other days not so sunny. If you look at this photo, you look at the size of the vessel here, right? Where my mouse pointer is against the mountains, and you look at the scale of it, and then you see how vast Antarctica is. Here again, you look at the scale against this mountain. The highest mountain in Antarctica is called Vincent Massive, which is 4,892 meters high, or 16,050 feet. So if you want to compare it against something, as an idea, you look at our own Mount Kinabalu in East Malaysia at 4,095 meters high, or 13,435 feet. But just look at the scale again. You see how enormous and vast Antarctica is. Again, you can see the scale. Now, if we talk about icebergs, icebergs are pieces of ice floating freely with approximately 90% of mass below the water. So that's my photo, but I took this cartoon off the internet. You can see the two penguins, and you can see relatively how much ice is underwater against the how much of the iceberg is underwater against the ice on top. Here is the sun shining on the water, reflecting back through an iceberg, turning the iceberg totally blue. I mean, just looks so beautiful. And then these icebergs, they're all geometrically different in shape. As they've broken up. So each one is like a work of art. Look at this one, look at the shape of it and everything. And then look at the patterns, right, on the iceberg. They're like works of art, as I just said. And then the icicles, look how long the icicles are. This is an iceberg early in the morning, and you can see some of the reflection in the water. And here you can see the boat, and you can see a penguin. You can see another one about to fly, and you can see a sunset right from the boat. Just beautiful. You look at the sunset there. Then a couple of fellas just looking at the sunset in awe, the front of the boat. Again, look at all these patterns on the iceberg. They're incredible. This is just a photo of the ship. These are zodiacs. You need special boats, right, to go ashore because at parts it can be quite shallow. So these zodiac boats, they were first used in France in 1896, and they are often used by the military, and they're good for shallow water. So, hold on a minute. Can't see my own slides, right? They're made from plastic polymers like PVC and synthetic rubbers. So due to the welded structure, they've got tremendous stability. So they're almost unsinkable. So they've got separate compartments in the boats, and they're separated by waterproof partitions. So the Navy SEALs and Coast Guard use Zodiacs as they're very reliable. So this is a view from the bottom of a vessel. We just got into a Zodiac. And this just shows you how versatile they are as boats. So this is just a picture of a guy on the Zodiac, and you can see how small he is. And there's a Zodiac there too. There's one in front and there's one behind in comparison to the mountainous range in front. So we're off exploring. So you can stand in the Zodiacs, they're exceptionally stable, and you can take photos of in very, very calm sea. And then, as I said to you before, shared with you before, there's no sound, nothing, absolutely nothing. It's like heaven really, except for you talking, if you're talking to each other. And you can take the most wonderful photos. And this blue here is the reflection from the sun and the water going back on the ice. So this is a Zodiac that we beached, and you can see all the ice here. And we didn't know what to expect. This was unpredictable, right? So we found this crab-eater seal, which was quite unusual because we expected to see them, but they're not normally on ice sheets like this. They're normally on ice floes. So they sit on ice floes or ice packs, And there are about 15 million in Antarctica. They're the most common seal, but they're normally very common further down from where we went. And the name was actually a mistake. They're not called a crab-eater seal, really. They're not. The crab-eater seal came from whalers in the 1930s who thought they ate crabs. So they called these seals crab-eater seals, but they don't actually eat crabs. They eat krill, which is like small prawns, and they eat all sorts of fish. And they're very heavy. They weigh 225 kilo or 496 pounds. The big thing about these, they're different to other seals, is courtship is in the water. And scientists think the mating is in the water, but they're not sure. So they have a slight dilemma in that sea lions, who you'll see later, their favorite food are these crab-eater seals' pups, and they go after them. This is just another landscape photo, but you can see the iceberg in front, and you can see the mountains, the beautiful mountains behind, on a nice, clear, sunny day with no pollution, blue sky. Here again, just look at the size of these icicles. They're just unbelievable. That's me photographing off a Zodiac boat. You can't see me, just the camera in front, sorry. So what do you wear, when you go there? Obviously a woolly hat against the cold. Don't want your ears to get cold. Then you need some sort of camera protection because of the weather, because Antarctica is cold. It's very dry and windy. So you need really one of these lens protectors. Then you need a diving bag to put around the camera, which I'll explain in a minute. Definitely waterproof trousers, oilskin jacket or something like that for warmth, because it does get very cold. Whoops. Sorry. Rubber boots, because you've got to be very, very careful because you're standing on sheets of ice. It's very, very slippery. So these bags are very important. Why? Because it's so cold and camera gears these days are so expensive. So what you do is when you're not photographing, you put your camera gear in one of these bags, you zip it up. When you get back to the boat or wherever you're staying, you wait until the boat gets to room temperature, and then you open up the bag and you take your camera out. So the memory board of the camera is not affected. But when you're on a Zodiac, sitting on a Zodiac, going to the shore, you can't take much with you. So really, these bags are a godsend really to put in the boat between your legs, or like me, I like a backpack, which goes on my back. Okay, we've arrived. That's the first penguin. It's called a Gentoo penguin. They've got webbed feet so they can stand up. They're also good for swimming. They're the fastest penguin underwater. This is penguin paradise. Look at the number of penguins, just unbelievable. So many of them. So first thing is, are penguins an endangered species? Yes, 10 of the world's 18 varieties are endangered. In Antarctica, it's the one you see in all the films, the emperor penguin, the largest of the penguins, which we didn't get to see because emperor penguins are much further south. So as I shared, if you want to go snap happy and just photograph, you can go further south, providing the weather permits, and you can see these emperor penguins who like really the interior. So why are they endangered? Because of climatic change and melting ice. They like reliable sea ice for breeding, and they like very harsh conditions. So today, very approximately, there are 280,000 breeding pairs of emperor penguins in Antarctica. So how many penguins in Antarctica? There are over 12 million penguins in 5 main varieties, which are the emperor, the Gentoo, the Adelie, the king, and the chinstrap. So we're going to concentrate on just 2 varieties. And the reason for that is because we only did part of Antarctica. So we're going to concentrate on the Gentoo and the chinstrap. So the Gentoo is the first penguin. It's the 3rd largest penguin in the world. The size is 30 inches. They weigh 8 kilo, 17.6 pounds. They lay 2 eggs each year. They're the fastest penguin underwater, doing 22 kilometers an hour. They feed on squid and krill, which is like a prawn, and fish, and they can dive up to 655 feet underwater. So at the moment, approximately, there are 378,000 pairs of Gentoo in Antarctica. And the reason this guy's mouth is open is he's calling good morning, believe it or not. So these are happy penguins, as you can see. This is a Gentoo baby. It's got a lot of fur, as you can see around it from my pointer. So it sheds fur after about 30 days. Then another 30 days, making 60 days approximately, it grows feathers, and then it can swim. And it is the main target of sea lions. So a lot of them are poached by sea lions as they go towards the water. This is feeding time between the mother and the baby. These are more happy penguins. Oh, this guy is photographing a penguin. First of all, he's on frozen, very slippery ice. And secondly, he's breaking the law in Antarctica. So I'll explain to you why. But it is the duty of every ship's captain to brief people before they go on shore what is the law to make Antarctica still a pristine wilderness and to stop pollution. So one of the things that you are told is you must not go more than 15 feet away from a penguin. Why? You must not disturb a penguin. Secondly, they bite and it's very nasty, but they will still come to you out of curiosity if you do it. So this guy's in the wrong. More Gentoo penguins. So this is basalt rock, and this is a penguin colony in the distance and 2 guys chatting about to go to the colony. Penguins generally, Gentoo in particular, they like pebbles to build their nests. So this penguin is in a bit of a dilemma. How to cross this crevice? He looked at it and he decided to jump. This guy's also in the wrong. It's actually a bad photo of mine. I couldn't believe someone was doing it. But this penguin is coming out to him out of curiosity. Again, he's breaking the law. Here's another beautiful landscape, and these are Gentoo penguins getting together at the top of a hill. So, penguin poop. I'll tell you about penguin poop. There's a lot of it in Antarctica. So when the poop enters the ground, microbes in the soil convert it to nitrous oxide, which is sometimes called laughing gas, which is not very good for the air. So nitrous oxide is also an effective sedation agent mixed with oxygen and inhaled through a small mask over the nose to help relaxation. It is very intense. So the color of this penguin poop is because they eat a lot of this krill, which is like a small shrimp-like crustacean of the open seas. So poop, poop, poop. Penguins have been here, as you can see. You can see all the penguin poop. And it's smelly. So when you get back on the boat, you have to go through disinfectant, scrub your feet, whatever it is, before they even allow you on the boat. So you don't bring the smell and the poop on the boat. Let's talk about chin-strap penguins. These are different, right, to Gentoo. They're 72 centimeters high. They weigh 3 to 5 kilo. They've got very tight feathers, as you can see around them, making their coat totally waterproof. They feed on krill. Their main predator is leopard seals who love them, attacking them, or killer whales. They live for 15 to 20 years, and there are 8 million pairs in Antarctica, and they lay 2 eggs a year. So this is a chin-strap penguin. They can stand, right, but not for long periods. When they come out of the sea, they like to drag themselves on their bellies or stomachs, and then they stand up. So you can see some, with the boat in the background. It's also a chin strap. You can see he's got krill, this crustacean in his mouth. Here you can see the scale of Antarctica, and you can see a penguin colony in the distance with this guy just looking at the distance and a few people climbing rocks. penguin colonies here. Okay, let's talk about seals. There are 5 different seals in Antarctica. So the crab-eater seal, which is the one you saw, right, which is this one. Nobody actually knows how many they are. Some people say there's 15 million. Some people say there's 75 million. Because of where they are, it's quite hard to count them. The Weddell seal, which we're going to talk about in a minute, there's 500,000 to 1 million. The leopard seal, which is also the sea lion, is 220,000 to 400,000. The Ross seal, which is not easy to find, is 220,000. And the massive elephant seal, the world population is 650,000. But really, nobody's 100% sure how many in Antarctica. So we're going to concentrate on 2 types of seals. This is the sea lion or leopard seal and the Weddell seal. So sea lion, they're the only seal with ears, as you can see. The adults weigh over 400 kilo. They have harems, a lot of women. So they defend the harems with around 25 females around them. And females like this one in particular, they weigh 85 to 160 kilo. And they eat small fish and they love penguin. And they've got a lifespan of 20 to 30 years. So this is a leopard seals as well. This is one sleeping, or sea lion. And you can see the eye. You see how the eye works, with part of the eye and a lid over part of the eye. And this one's looking at you. It's just woken up. So when you take leopard seals like this, you can't get too close. So you really need 100 to 400 lens because they snap and they've got teeth. And I heard of one girl from New Zealand who got nearly her whole arm bitten off. So you've got to be very careful. I mean, they're quite placid, but if you get too near them, you're invading their space. So they could get very aggressive. Now let's talk about Weddell seals. So these seals are quite unusual. They can stay underwater for 45 minutes. They can dive down to an unbelievable depth of 2,000 feet. And they have 1 pup a year, and they're very placid. And they eat cod and other fish. And they eat anything from 10 kilo to 50 kilo a day. So this seal's fast asleep. And I photographed this 400 meters away, because again, you can't get too close. So 3 meters longer can weigh anything up to 400 kilo. That's a complete Weddell seal. So this is just a beautiful evening landscape. So there are many wrecks in Antarctica. This is a very famous one. This is the wreck of the Norwegian ship, the Governor. So it was a whaling ship with a capacity of 20,000 gallons of oil. And all the oil, is down in the decks underneath. And on the top, they've got some boilers where they boil it, and also some extra storage tanks. So it caught fire in 1915. So why? The crew were having a party to celebrate the end of the whaling season. And the party was held below deck on the first deck. So accidentally, a lamp was knocked off a table and the ship caught fire. So the oil in the ship fueled the fire, causing the fire to get totally out of control. So the captain very cleverly beached the ship, ran it aground, saving the crew. So this Governor is just one of a range of many ships that have sunk or they're shipwrecks in Antarctica. I mean, you can see it here. It's another view of the Governor. You can see the holes in the side of the Governor as he was beaching it. And that's the remains of the inside of it. So let's now talk about whales. There are 9 different types of whales in Antarctica, from the blue whale to the finback, to the sperm whale, to the right whale, the humpback, the minke whale, the orca, the narwhal, and beluga. But I'm just going to concentrate on one, the orca whale, because of the way it hunts, and also it's also called sometimes the killer whale. So why? So these orca whales are 10 meters long. They're 10 tons in weight, and they are one of the most highly intelligent animals. They swim up to 40 miles a day, and they group together to kill a big prey. there are 27,000 orcas in Antarctica and a total of 50,000 worldwide. So they like sea turtles, birds, penguins, sea lions, fish, and they were grouped together to go after a killer whale. So they're called killer whales because they group together to go after a big killer whale. They can kill humpbacks right in a group. So this is an orca, and you can see from it, you can see how big the fin is, right, and how big the whale is. Then you can see that they're on threes. This is an orca, giving off water. This is 3 orcas. So as I said, they're highly intelligent. And what they will do is they'll wait, they'll sneak up to a beach, and even though it's quite shallow, they'll go up to the beach and they'll get a penguin baby. Just snap penguin baby, you've got no chance. So let's talk about whaling and how whaling began on a big scale in 1904 in Antarctica, and then look at whaling stations. So 9 different whales in Antarctica, as I shared. There are 8 abandoned whaling stations today. From 1904 to 1987, 1.3 million whales were killed in Antarctica. Japan stopped whaling in 2019. They were forced to by the international community. They pulled out of the International Whaling Commission and started again in Antarctica on a small scale, saying it was for scientific reasons. So the following photos are of whaling stations. But let me share with you about whaling. You can see how whaling was done years ago, with in the time of Moby Dick, the famous book, with these sailing ships, and how they took the whales out of water. Today, the modern technique is with harpoons, and they pull the whales out into whaling ships. So we went to, in our Zodiac, to an abandoned whaling station. The whaling station's here, and these are whaling tanks for oil, for whaling oil. So this is one of the abandoned whaling stations. You can see, over the years, this is from the 1970s, the 1950s. You can see over the years how the woods caved in and everything, and the roof and things like that. Then you can see there was a hole in the roof, how the ice has got through, and how the ice has formed, and how it's very solid, in the building. And this is a whaling harness. And you can imagine, in the days of the sailing ships, how they use this harness to actually pull the whales out of the water. Then this is a whaling carcass. See it here. This is another deserted building from the old whaling days. And these are abandoned whaling oil storage containers. So these are not corroded, right? Why? Because Antarctica is the driest and coldest continent on Earth. You double up with moisture, with temperature, and the two combined, they stop corrosion. So how is whale oil, this is all, whale oil was stored in here. So whale oil is obtained by the burning of blubber, right, from the whales. It's an excellent low friction, cheap lubricant, which is also used in making candles. So this is, abandoned whale oil containers, and you can see a sea lion in front, and you can see the vessel behind it. So this is what they used to do. They used to take the blubber like this from the whale, take it off, and they used to boil it and store it and sell it. So this is a sea lion next to an oil storage container, and you can see the reflection of the shadow of the sea lion. This is an abandoned boat from the whaling days. This is another abandoned whaling station. This is inside the whaling station. You can see the ice building up at the back through a leakage in the roof. So this is, there are crosses everywhere near the whaling stations with burials of whalers who died and never made it home. This bird is called the South Polar Skua. Population is about 10 to 20,000. The lifespan is 10 years, and the top speed is 50 kilometers an hour. They're quite fast, and they eat fish, squid, and krill, and eggs and chicks of seabirds. They're scavengers. So this is an aircraft hangar used in the early 1900s When oil prices dropped in the Great Depression in America, the place was abandoned. So the Great Depression was the worst economic downturn in the world, lasting from 1929 to 1939. So there's 70 permanent research stations in Antarctica representing 29 countries. So this one's called is one of the 2 Russian research stations. It was established in 1968. And the high elevation, because it's built on stones, as I'll show you, it's quite high. It makes it very, very cold in the wintertime. And accessibility is only a few months of the year when the ice melts. You know, in winter, it's pitch black. You can't do anything. You know, there's no Maxis there. There's no Astro there. You know, when you want to watch something for entertainment, you know, you've got to download it off the satellite and it's not reliable. So what do? They make their own vodka and they're very happy drinking vodka. So alcoholism is a bit of a problem. And they sell it, you know, when group tours go there. You know, in this slide, you can see the smallest Russian church in the world, which is here. And you can see this sled that used to be pulled by huskies, which was the way to get around Antarctica in the 1930s, 1940s. So there are 9 buildings built on solid rock, as you can see. And there's strong winds, 300 days of snow each year. And there are 12 people there researching everything from penguin population to climatic change, and they're there all year round. This is the smallest church or chapel in the world. You can only get 3 people inside it if you're lucky, and that's a squeeze. So this is Russian Orthodox. That's the back. This is just the back of the Russian research station. You can see here the storage area, you know, that they've got. This is like a mini museum that people can go to. It's a British protected site. It's a scientific station which used to employ 4 people in 1947 doing research work, but they closed it in 1954. The work they did was transferred to the Russian research station that I just showed you. It was named after Sir James Worley, who was part of the Shackleton's team, which explored Antarctica that I shared with you earlier. And part of the museum shows a storage area in the Worley house. You know, it was actually, you know, where they show various things that they needed at the time. This is another research station. It's only open 6 months of the year during the summer, closed during the winter. It's an Argentinian research station established in 1951, named after the father of the Argentinian Navy. And you can see here again, it's built on rock, and this is for satellite reception. This is it again. You can see the beautiful rocks behind it and everything, and the landscape. This is just going out on a Zodiac, you know, and you can see the boat there where we just went out, and just, you know, to see the beautiful sun and see the just a beautiful landscape. This is a snow petrel. They're quite common in Antarctica. They live for 20 years, and the speed is around 40 kilometers an hour. And these are sea lions. They're just talking to each other. You can see the teeth there. This is just an incredible sight. It's just the end of the day. You know, you can see just, you know, the sunrise on the water, just so beautiful. Okay, Antarctica is not just sheets of ice. There are also volcanoes. The volcanoes are all extinct, except for 2. So there are 2 active volcanoes in Antarctica. Another called 136 is non-active, like this one. And the last eruption was minor in 2015. Antarctica is actually the largest volcanic region on Earth, would you believe? If these 2 active volcanoes woke up, they would melt ice, raising the global level by 60 meters, and also create storms throughout the world. So some of these rock samples, they date 1.3 million years. It's my wife and a group of, you know, a bit behind, with a group of people, you know, who are going to climb it. You can see all of the lava rock there and the boat behind. It's just vast. And you can see the climbers there. You know, my wife's, I think, in front now, right? And climbing to the top. You can see the crater there. Just look at the scale of the whole thing, which is so, so big. And this tiny little boat, and then the mountains at the back. So this is just the end of another day. You know, you look at the sunset. So one question is there crime in Antarctica? Very little. Because there's such big isolation and boredom, you know, because people are cooped up for 12 months of the year. So it leads to very small acts of crime. The biggest thing is alcoholism, like that Russian research station where they make their own vodka. So under the 1959 Antarctic Treaty, persons accused of a crime are subject to punishment by their own country. So it's the responsibility of every vessel going to Antarctica to remind its passengers about environmental protection and what is forbidden. So the Joint Atlantic Naval Patrol, PANC, which is from Chile and Argentina, they monitor Antarctica and other countries will help. And the US Marshal Service are the law enforcement at the South Pole. So does Antarctica have any rules? Yes, it does. It does have rules. You must not touch, feed, or handle any wildlife or photograph them in any ways that cause them to alter their behavior. There are rules on how close you can get to wildlife. You must not dispose of any litter or garbage on land. Open burning is forbidden. Do not paint or engrave names on or graffiti on rocks anywhere, like I used to do in school. I remember as a naughty boy in the school lavatories and things like that. So mustn't do anything like that. Do not collect or take away any biological or geological specimens, including rocks, bones, eggs, or fossils. Do not interfere or remove any scientific equipment or mark a post, and do not disturb any scientific sites, and no disposing of any rubbish in the sea. So when you go there you're on a boat, it's the responsibility of every captain and the crew to instruct you in these things. And there are patrols, but they're not very frequent, obviously, because Antarctica is so vast to try and enforce this. So was it really worth it to travel a long distance all the way to the end of the world, Antarctica? So these three people are photographers. They're all they're Americans. Antarctica is like nothing I've ever seen before. Stark, cold, beautiful desolation. Second quote, I got a huge knot in my stomach because if Antarctica could talk, it would be saying, you don't belong here. Third quote, I think part of the appeal of Antarctica is experiencing some sort of power, the forces of the natural world. So the answer is, was it worth it to travel all the way to Antarctica? Yes, 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 definitely worth it. So one guy wrote, for me anyway, one should really respect it as a kind of natural park for the planet. So thank you for watching my journey to the end of the Earth, Antarctica. Thank you for watching my journey to the end of the Earth, Antarctica. Happy shooting to my photographic friends. Keep smiling, everybody, and please stay safe. The key thing is that it's such a vast place, you can't do everything. I wish you could. So you need to spend quite a long time there, about a month. Then it also gets very expensive, right, to stay, particularly on a research boat. So you do what you can, and people do it in different ways. My view was go and learn, because you're going to such a long way to the other side of the earth, and it really is a long way. And Linda and I broke it with a few days in, I think it was a couple of days in Buenos Aires, and then a day in Ushuaia. Otherwise, the plane journey is just too big. So when you go there, you're actually overawed by the sheer scale of the place. So you can just do a little bit, learn, got some funds, go back and learn a bit more. So that's my philosophy about Antarctica. What is the preferred or best season to visit Antarctica? It must be summertime. It's got to be November to March, because you go after that, the place is frozen over. You can't go in a boat, nothing. So you must go summertime, when the light is reasonably cleared. Although Antarctica is very unpredictable. If you've got a good day and the sun is out, it's very good. If you've got a bad day, there's nothing you can do about it. Lucky when I went, we had a lot of very good days with the sun is out. So you must go. You can't go wintertime. You can't see anything. It's black. and then there's the ice, and then the boats can't, they can't navigate the ice. As I shared with you, the navigation is quite difficult.
And Mike, there's a question about the aurora, whether you can see it from
What?
in Antarctica.
Aurora, we never saw any aurora.
Is it possible to be seen from there? Do you think so?
No, not from where we went, because as I shared with you, we went just at the top of Antarctica, and it gets more interesting as you go down. But if you're doing it and you spend one day, we did 12 days on a particular topic and a particular place, where you look at the geology of the place and you look at the wildlife and you look at the what's going on in that area, you can't do everything. Like we never got to see Emperor penguins because they're a lot further down. How much did it cost for the entire trip? Okay, I can't cost out the plane flight for you, because we were on two plane flights. Emirates, which went from KL to Dubai, Dubai to Buenos Aires, the capital of Argentina. And then the only way to get to your shire is a domestic flight, because we're in the middle of COVID and plane flights now are crazy. So I can't even tell you that. But for the actual trip to go to Antarctica, to go on the boat and do what we did, possibly about $20,000 US, multiplied by whatever the exchange rate now is into ringgit. And the reason it's so expensive is because, you can go cheaper and you can go on sailing boats or boats that we had, because it was a research boat. That's why. Okay, what else can anybody else ask?
Yeah, there was a question on the camera gear, Mike.
What about the camera? Okay, camera gear.
Any issues? Yeah, any issues faced with your camera while photo shooting under such cold conditions?
No, because I've shot colder in Mongolia in winter. Mongolia can get even colder than this part of Antarctica. So the trick is that you take your camera out when it's cold, but you don't leave it out for a long period of time. You put it in one of these diving bags, which has got a seal at the top, and take it out when you need it. And the most important thing is, when you get back to your hotel or you get back to your diving ship room or whatever, you keep it in the room for a couple of hours or so, or for a reasonable period of time, until your camera bag reaches room temperature. And then you take your camera out the bag, and there should be no problems at all, because the biggest problem otherwise would be the memory board, which is very expensive to replace. So the diving bag is very crucial. Okay, what else was there?
Yeah, about how long is daylight? Probably it's summer. How long is it?
Daylight's nearly all day, so as long as it is, right? There's hardly any night. It's I don't know, 10, 12 hours a day or longer. Winter time's black all day. It's one extreme to the other. That's why in winter.
So the route.
See, that's why in winter time, these scientists can't do anything, unless they've got flashlights or something like that. They can't go out to the research station because it's just too dangerous. They could fall down a crevice or whatever. So they entertain themselves somehow. They can't do any work, with very poor satellite reception, as I shared jokingly. There's no Astro, no Maxis, no nothing there. So you download from the satellite whatever you can get, and then they're very happily married drinking vodka on the Russian station, which they make themselves.
So there was a question again about whether there's a quicker route to get to Antarctica, flying down.
You can go the other way. You can go. The point is that you can, whatever way you go, right? Whether you fly the other way, instead of going to Dubai in the Middle East, you can fly the other way to Sydney. But you must land in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. So there's not much difference in the flying time, because from Buenos Aires, the only way you can get to a shire, which is the most southern town in the world, which is the stepping stone to Antarctica, is by the Antarctic airline, which I can never remember the name, right? The domestic airline. So you must you must use that. So there's very little either way. But you need to, at the right time, you need to research it, because now, with COVID, it's a totally different scenario. Any other questions?
Yeah, there's one more, Mike. The research vessel such as you were on, the only way to go there, or limited number of passengers, so everyone can go on ashore at the same time. So yeah, how does that actually work with the number of passengers in the ship?
Oh, they've got zodiacs at the back of the ship. They've got 4 or 5 zodiacs. So each zodiac, they can fit, I don't know, 10 people. So they use 2 at a time to go. So it's no big problem at all. But there are, there are many, many ways of going to Antarctica. I mean, another photographer, who is exceptionally good, and is my peer or Sifu, Yusuf Hashim, has been 7 times. It's like a second home, taken his family there, been personally there, and taken people there. But he's done it a different way. He went on a sailing boat. So you've got like a reconstruction of an old sailing boat, which is very comfortable. And his emphasis was different. His emphasis was just purely to do photographs. My emphasis was I wanted to learn. My wife wanted to do the same thing, learn and take photos. So different ways of going there, different ways of planning it. Nothing's the right way. It just depends on your personal preference. Any other questions?
Yeah, there was another one. How many passengers on your ship?
On our ship, I think that from what I remember, there's about 20 of us. And the cabin crew as well. Not many cabins, and bunk beds in the cabin. And it's done because they need money for the research work, right? So at certain periods of the year, they open the ship up, right, and they take passengers. Other times of the year, they just do research work. So the ship is it's an old ship, so you don't expect a lot, right? And the cabins are very basic, and the food is good, nice simple food. And the main thing is, is it's strong enough to get across this horrible Drake's Passage, and to weather all the ice and the icebergs. But for me, I've been to 49 different countries. I've been everywhere from Mongolia, Japan, Eastern Europe, Scandinavia. And I can honestly say, hand on heart, right? Antarctica is the most exciting place I've ever been to, not just from a photographer, but because it is totally protected. It is a wilderness with so much to see, and I've only scraped the surface. It's like God's country, totally untouched. But for me, it was an incredible place to go to. Now, because I'm getting a bit older, senior citizen, I'm not sure if I can fly on a plane that long anymore. But if I could, and I also had the finances, I would want to go again.
Yeah, so Mike, the trips over there, it all depends on the kind of package that the specific ship is providing, or you can actually organize it by yourself or decide in terms of how many days you want to be in that particular trip.
Some companies you can do that, other companies you can't. And I've known of photographers who've, I know one guy in particular, right, who's flown all the way there, and he's picked a local guide. And problem is the guide speaks Spanish and his English is not very good. That's one problem. The second problem is he didn't actually see what he wanted to see. And it was just like snap happy few days. So the point to it all is, as I shared at the beginning, whatever you do, whatever you photograph, if you're going overseas and you're going somewhere meaningful and spending your own money, you need to sit down and do the research. And for argument's sake, when my training is, when you go and see somebody like Marks and Spencer or Tesco in the UK, you can't turn up at their head office to sell them something without a plan. So you need to plan what you're going to say, what you're going to do, what you're going to present, in the same way photography is. And I remember John Ishii, who's a very good photographer, who lives here, said one thing, which I try and practice, particularly on trips like this. When you go, try and have a preconceived shot in your head. I mean, Vincent Tian, who's a very good photographer, also does the same thing. Think of what you're going to see and what you want to achieve, and have this shot in your head, then go out and get it. And if you don't get it, never mind, but at least you've tried. And then of course, other shots will come along the way. So that's the idea behind what you do before you go. Antarctica is full of different packages for all sorts of people. And you can get sailing ships that represent the old type of sailing ships, which is purely a photographic trip where you do nothing and you snap happy. And you go a little bit further than we did. Nothing wrong with that. Or you go on a ship like this with designated points that you want to see, and you allocate one day to those points, and then you go and look at the geology, you look at the wildlife, and you look at everything related to it. So you actually go and learn. So that's what we did. So there's no right or wrong which way to go. It's up to every individual which way what they want to do.
As far as you know, is this ship still in commission, this Moroni, this vessel?
Is it what, sorry?
Is it still in commission? Is it still sailing?
Yeah, still sailing, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It still is, yeah.
Any more questions from the floor, from the audience?
I got one, Mike. With the summer being the preferred season for travel to Antarctica, does it get crowded there, or is it well managed in the sense of getting onshore and off?
No, it's very well managed. The number of vessels that go are not that big, right? Antarctica, is really for an environmental enthusiast like me, right? Who also likes photography. It's not everybody's cup of tea, right? Because of the weather and also the isolation. And they also say, that if your ship is sinking, because of the difficulty in satellite, getting satellite response, you might not get a rescue for quite a while. You've got to be prepared for that. So the ship's got to be pretty strong and the crew have got to be very alert. But, you won't go to a place, like the places I showed you and find tons and tons of other ships there. It's not like, one of these cruise destinations, where you go for argument's sake to a city like, just for argument's sake, like Athens in Greece, where you have about 10 cruise ships, or even Port Klang, where you have, 4 or 5 cruise ships all landing at once. In Antarctica, you'll be very, very lucky if you see another ship. So really, you've got it to yourself. Very, very blessed. Okay.
Cool. Thanks.
Right, cool.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions?
Hi, this is Derek here. I'm fascinating talk. Just wanted to know, what's your favorite memory of Antarctica?
I've got a few. The first thing is that when you cross the Drake's Passage, and it's called the Drake's Passage because Sir Francis Drake, who was an English ship captain, he was the first one to circumnavigate around the world, right? Captain Cook also did it. And this passage is notorious for shipwrecks, in the 19th century because of the unpredictable weather. So when I shared, you get these 40-foot waves and you're told, okay, strap yourself in your cabin, don't go out because it's, unless you've got very good sea legs, and even then they don't like you to go out. And then suddenly, total quietness, total, there's not a sound, nothing. And you're there in Antarctica. I think that's the first thing, it really, really hits you. I mean, where in the world can you get that? And it's so beautiful. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that really the scale of the place, it is so, so big. So when, I've been to the Gobi Desert, and I've been to other places, and they're so small in comparison when you look at the landscape. And then you look at the mountains, the whiteness and everything, and look at these icebergs. And each iceberg is different. It's like a work of art. You could go into a museum and you could take one of these icebergs and put it on I'm just joking, but theoretically, You could put it on a piece of marble and it's like a work of art, just so, so beautiful. So that really struck me as well. And then also, I think the other thing that struck me is that totally no pollution. So where in this world can you go without seeing plastic bottles everywhere, without seeing all sorts of pollution? There is none. So isn't that an eye-opener, you know, and something for the rest of the world? So those three things really hit me more than anything else and made me appreciate Antarctica more than anything else. Does that answer your question, Derek?
Thank you, Mike. Very inspiring. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay,
Mike,
go on, Alex.
yeah, Mike, I want to ask, your 10 days in Antarctica, is it sufficient or are they toured or travelers make more than 10 days in Antarctica?
Alex, it's not actually 10 days. You've got to remember, it's 2 days crossing the Drake's Passage, 2 days back, so it's 14 days.
Yeah, I mean 10 days in Antarctica itself, yeah.
So you look at it another way, right?
Yes.
I'll give you another example. How could you explore Australia in 10 days? Cannot.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Australia's so big.
impossible.
Yeah. So how could you explore, you know, the whole of America and the whole of Mexico? In 10 days, you can't. So Antarctica is so vast, cannot do it. So there are two problems, right? One problem is money, because it costs a lot when you're there on the boat. So you've got to have sufficient funds, number one. Number two, you could spend a month there and still not see it all. It's just so big. So you've got to do maybe what Yusuf Hashima's got, you know, who has made it, you know, financially, he was financially able to do it. He was a great guy. He's been 7 times. I've only been once. Wish I could go again, not so soon. And also he's got a bit older than me. He's like a 21-year-old. I'm not anymore. So I don't have the energy that he's got if he's listening, right? So you actually need a lot of time to go there. You know, a month you couldn't even cover it.
So the place that you have landed, Mike, so the place that you have landed is actually most of the expedition goes, or are there other points, you know, that the other expedition goes?
No, there are other points, right? The places that you landed, right, are what you agree with the boat that you take, right? So there are plenty of other places you can go to. Don't forget there are a lot of other volcanoes. Antarctica's got more extinct volcanoes than anywhere else in the world. You go to other places. Some people take emperor penguins. Some people take Adelie penguins. So you have to go further south to do that. As I shared with you, the biggest seal in Antarctica is a crab seal. And we only saw a few. You go further south, you see loads of them. They're so common, but they're on ice floats. So it just depends on what you want to do. So there's not enough of it. And then everywhere you go, every day, the scenery changes. No 2 days are the same. You know, the sunset changes, the mountains change, you know, you see so many ice flows, you see different types of birds. I only saw a few, but there are a lot more. So Antarctica, as I share with you to start with, is not just penguins, it's seals, birds, all living this very harsh life. And as you go further south or further inland, it gets harsher and harsher. Okay, Alex?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question for you.
Yes, sure. Richard. What is it?
From your trip, do you have any insight as to the effect of global warming on the environment in Antarctica?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you because the line's quite bad. Is you talking about global warming?
Yes. Do you have any insight into the impact of global warming on Antarctica?
It is because the ice is melting quite fast, but not that fast. You know, all these research stations have different research that they're doing, but the one thing that they are all looking at is global warming, right, and how it's affecting Antarctica. But in my lifetime, and hopefully yours, if we're around the same age, right, it will still be an absolute wonderful place to go to and the largest wilderness on this planet. Any other questions? Yes, sorry.
Comment relative to that. With the global warming, there is less sea ice being formed every year.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry. I heard something about sea ice. I don't understand.
There is less sea ice being formed every year due to global warming.
There's more ice being formed in wintertime. I mean, I can't answer the question because I can't hear properly. I'm very sorry, right? But there's in wintertime it freezes over. There's very little access. So in terms of global climate change, without looking at research papers which go to the Atlantic Treaty, I'm sorry, I wish I could. If you WhatsApp me, I'll give you all the details. I can't answer you on the spot.
Yeah, I was really making a comment rather than asking a question, because of the effect of warming, there is less ice being formed during the winter. The sea ice supports algae growing underneath the ice. Krill feed on the algae. All the other wildlife, the seals, the penguins, the whales, all feed on krill. And so with less sea ice, there's less algae, less krill, less everything else. So it's an excellent lesson in the interdependence of all of the elements of the ecological cycle.
You're right, but in terms of I mean, the easiest thing is to carry this on is you actually WhatsApp me. Constantly will give you your number. We could talk about this at length. What you're saying is absolutely right? But in terms of animals that are declining, in numbers, yes, there are, right? Like Gentoo penguin declining because of global warming, chinstrap penguins declining, but not at that faster rate. And there are others. I mean, I can give you all the details, but so if you WhatsApp me, let's do it for a WhatsApp or telephone conversation where I can hear you clearly. But what so far from what I can hear, which is quite bad, about the krill declining and everything, yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Another factor of global warming is that the different species of penguins prefer different longitudes or latitudes. As global warming warms the entire area, those populations tend to shift south towards the pole, displacing the species that are already there. That's a little understood aspect of global warming in Antarctica.
Yeah, but there's nothing at the pole, right, except for ice and also.
My point was they are going in that direction, not that they're going to the South Pole, of course.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you are. You're going in that direction, right? You're right.
Yeah. So certain species prefer the Falkland Islands.
Yeah, the Gentoo penguins like the Falkland Isles as well, which are north towards Argentina. Yes. Emperor penguins like further south. Which is exactly what you said. They're moving more inland. Depends on the animal, but you're absolutely right in what you say. Any other questions?
Hi, Mike. Mike, how long was the 40-foot wave ordeal? How long did it last? Over that 2 days, over the Drake Canal?
We were told by the ship's crew and the captain to get in our cabins. So I don't actually know how big the waves were. All I know is the boat was a bit rocky, right? And what we know from the films that we saw on the boat, right? How big the waves are that the crew actually took, right? And how strong the winds are. So I actually can't answer your question because we were actually told, which is ironic, go to your cabins, but don't only go into your cabins, strap yourselves in like seatbelts, which I've never heard before on a vessel, right? So I'm sorry, I can't answer that.
No worries. Any more questions from the floor? Yeah. Well then, if not, then thanks everyone for attending, and thank you to Mike, yeah, for your preparation, and a lot of effort has gone into it, into all your slides and into your presentation tonight. Yes, and we just want to say on behalf of the Malaysian Nature Society photo group, a big thank you to Mike and to all the participants tonight, yeah, for making this event. Thank you again for such an informative show, yeah, Mike. So we're gonna say good night and thank you all. Yep. Good night. Bye.